Good morning, everyone. We're down here in Poquoson at Surf Rider at White House Cove Marina, 105 Rennes Road in Poquoson. Have the Buy Boat Reunion going on, and we got some beautiful boats down here. And so, been making my rounds and wanted to come around and just get to talk with a few of these captains and get their stories and hear about their boats. And so right now we've got us an opportunity to sit down with Mr. Bill Haight. So good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Alan. How you doing, old buddy?
Doing great.
Good.
Sure is. I'm glad we have a little overcast this morning. That,
yeah, I am too. A little breeze over it.
Yeah, that breeze feels good.
Yeah, been a hot week.
Right. And this is the end of y'all's week, right? I mean, y'all.
This is it. We go home tomorrow.
No, I know y'all enjoy it, but I'm sure you'll be glad to get home.
Well, it's just, how long can you keep having fun? I mean, sometimes you just settle down a little bit and take a bath and rest and recoup, you know?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen you around. We've talked a lot before and everything, but I've never really had the opportunity to sit down with you and just hear your story. You know, tell me about you. Tell me about the 55th Virginia.
Can do.
So we were all eager to hear, and just share whatever you like to share.
Okay, Alan. I'll just sort of like a flea, man. I just sort of jump around. So I'll be
hey, that's
one
great.
Thing, and then I'll be thinking about something else. But anyway, I live in Urbana. My family has been in Middlesex County since the 1600s. Okay, and so naturally, I spent a lot of time in Urbana before I lived there permanently. But I had the good fortune of being very close to what the Lord Mott factory was in Urbana, which was a big steam boiler tomato factory. They owned Moretico Packing Company. They packed oysters. They ended up being owned by American Brands, and they packed a lot of oysters for Campbell Soup and all of the people. So the benefit, it was a great place to sort of roll over the skiff when you were real little and get up under there and catch stiffback perch. But it also gave an opportunity in summer season, harvest season, to see a lot of buy boats that would come in there, because the factory had two boats. They had the Muriel Eileen, and they also had a little boat that was smaller that ended up being the Veteran, and her name was the Elsa Louise. And those boats worked the James River a lot for seed and all, and they were just all over everywhere. A guy came in from Reeville one day and saw the model I had of the big Muriel Eileen, which was a big double-deck boat, 85 foot long. And he was just asking me, he said, when we went James River, we used to really see her coming, because we knew she was going to take everything we took off the bottom.
Right.
And that was a good thing. But there were just so many boats that came. I mean, it just, lots of freight, a lot going on and seeing.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
I know for me and my family and around here, I mean, I know buy boat is a great term. It's a great name. It's the common name. It's self-explanatory. But for us, they were always known as market boats.
Oh, yeah.
Do you recall that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually, the oyster industry needed market boats.
Yeah.
And what they did, there were little oyster houses almost on every creek around. Oysters were plentiful. And what they did was they would go out and anchor at the head of these creeks where these guys were coming back in, and they would buy the oysters. And it turned into a lot of people had a place, if they came over from Tangier or came up from Gloucester or Guinea or somewhere, and those guys would tie up at a man's place. Well, they naturally had an inclination to sell to that guy. But every now and then a guy would come out and put a little red flag up, and that meant I got the best price of anybody today. And sometimes they would shift and go over that way and all. But these market boats were essential, taking the product from the little man, having a little bit of freight involved, and then going into the big man, or maybe the big man owned the market boat. You know, like it was with Buster Ferguson and Ruth Ann and all. It just was what it was.
Right.
And a lot of those boats in the off season, let's say, would be going to James River to get seed and all. And I've seen as many as 10, 11 a night coming to Urbana out of the James River, waiting to go up to the Garretts and everybody up the river that were planting seed, and they were actually farming.
Right. Right.
It all provided employment, and it provided just so many boats.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now you'll notice this shirt I got on is the East Hampton.
Yeah.
This was Benny Williams' boat.
Oh yeah.
Gloucester, and his daddy had a boat called the Seminole.
Right.
And I remember her coming to Urbana just loaded. Of course, our drugstore stayed open until 11 o'clock, so as soon as the boys hit land, they were going to the drugstore to get a hot dog, something to eat, a cold drink, a drink of beer, do whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just all a boon to the economy.
When I was out there drudging crabs, Seminole, East Ham, they were all out there. I worked around all of them.
Oh yeah.
So
and you take care of your boats because that's your lifeblood.
Yeah.
You ain't out there.
Right.
You know?
That's it.
Yep, that's what it was.
When my dad was hand tonging down on James River,
Okay.
you know, you talked about how many different market boats would come. Well, he could see the rigging coming up the river,
Know the boat.
and he would tell them exactly which boat it was, and the other people couldn't even see anything. They said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Look over there, right there."
Yeah.
He would tell them exactly who it was.
That's the way it was, and I'm going to tell you, and I don't know who said this, but said they had seen at least 150 buy boats at one time just in the James River.
Oh yeah.
You know?
I'm sure of that.
And all because I remember one time Larry Chin and I went up this river to where Sonny Hines lived. And Sonny took us in, and he, of course, had been a waterman. At that time, he was building these luxury yachts and all. And telling about the way it was and what a big provider the James River was and how many oyster reefs were everywhere. So this was sort of like the mother river of supplying all these other little rivers, especially the private people, with seed and all. And a lot of people died within that process. I mean, one of the great boat builders we had in Middlesex was a guy named Grover Leones.
Yeah.
And his dad was running the boat. And
Mr. Bill,
hey,
you know what you're talking about.
yes, sir.
I've got faith in you.
But I will tell Dale have to,
I
Terry.
believe that. Go ahead.
Hey, you doing good? Oh, I don't even know where I was. What was it?
Grover Lake.
What?
Grover Lake.
Oh,
Yeah,
Grover
you're
Lake.
just getting into Grover
His daddy
Lake.
was Dawson on,
Good thing I'm
and they
here.
were Matthew's family. Oh yeah, Captain, you're right. And he turned over not far from the Chamberlain Hotel. And killed him and at least one of his crew. The Klondike went down, I guess, in the 60s and killed 3 people that are now in Eclipse Cemetery down there. I mean, this was good work, but it was hazardous work.
Right.
And accidents did happen, and you know, you learned a lot about boats that leak when you mash them down in the water, and sometimes they come to the first trip to get out in the water and get the seed and all, and they had a lot of problems with bilge pumps and trying to keep them afloat.
If somebody was under that deck chinking some cotton too.
Oh yeah, they were sticking in every hole they found, you know.
And the stories about when they're hauling lumber, how they would throw sawdust in the water around the boat for it to draw it up in the seams, slow it down.
I've heard of that happening.
Right.
But it makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
You know. Especially those boats that were hauling lumber and all.
Right.
I mean, they'd get them in real shallow water and load them, and hey, anything can happen in shallow water.
Yeah.
You know, and you sort of forget about it being a boat, and also it's full of water.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's sort of where that is. And
Yes,
it's been a dynamic business for Eastern Virginia for a long time. And MSX came in and sort of paralyzed the oyster industry everywhere. Nobody knew anything about it.
Right.
You know, just thank goodness now these oysters are living and coming back, and there are so fewer packers now
Right.
that are actually left, but they're getting the job done. And you can go to a restaurant in Virginia and get Virginia oysters in season when you're supposed to. And some of the private people, you know, in a month without an R in the thing, where it's usually the fattest and best oyster.
Right.
But they're producing some wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, to name a few, we talk about Lake and Kyle and Ronnie Bevins and those guys.
Yeah.
And it's been essential. I mean, it's tough living in the country, but it's great if you got something to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, when you did the census, a lot of times you look at the census, they were a farmer and a waterman.
Right.
It's, people were working to live back then, you know. You had your own garden, and then when you couldn't grow anything, you'd get on the boat and go oyster, you know.
That's right.
So,
That's right. And Bill Rowland used to be the head of the inspectors with the MRC years and years ago, and he was telling me things 40, 50 years ago. You know, said when those guys came back from World War II and all, said a lot of them didn't really have an education because they were so young when they were in. He said, but they could take a boat and learn how to tong oysters and get out here. He said they could make a good living and send a child to college, put food on the table and everything else. And that was at prices that was sometimes 50 cents a bushel, or $2 or $3 or $5 a bushel or something.
Right.
Of course, with inflation, here we are now. It's a high-priced product. You don't eat it every week like you used to, but still, you get it, and that's what's important.
absolutely. And to see the James River come back the way it did,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the most fertile rock that's ever been, as far as I know, you know, for oysters.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what Sonny Hines told Larry and I that day that we were there. He said, you just would not believe the size of some of these oyster reefs and how many were down here, and it just continued to roll until you got the MSX, and that stopped a lot of stuff. Keep on wasn't anything compared to the MSX,
Right.
as far as the oyster industry is concerned.
So, tell me about the 55th Virginia.
Well, she looks like a buy boat, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Okay, she's one of the newer ones. She's not really a buy boat, but she looks like one. Okay. This boat was built by Billy Norton in Deltaville, and he had working for him at that time one of the more famous boat builders, which was Grover Lee Owens from Matthews. And he happened to be Dawson's son, the man who got killed right off Chamberlain. And his daddy Ed was a really fine craftsman on boats and all. So they built her right in the yard at Norton's Marine. Okay, and built her in '71, and she went to a service called Sean's Launch Service, which also had a boat built called the Mimi. But what they did, those coal colliers were in Hampton Roads like you never saw before, and waiting for loads and all. And so what Sean's did, they were servicing these great big coal colliers that were down there. And they carried captains and mates because the crews, for the most part, didn't come ashore a whole lot. They pretty much stayed on the boat. And then they were taking groceries and freight. And this boat had no real waist like I have now on the boat. It had a big rubber rail all the way around the boat and no mast. But that was to get under the stern of a lot of those guys and get up to the hatch and throw the freight and let the passengers get on the lap and get back on the boat on the big ship.
Right.
And so they ran Sean was in business a pretty good while, and then Sean's was bought out by the Virginia Pilot Association. And when the pilots got her, they continued along because the demand and need was there. And these boats led a pretty rough life. I mean, they were well taken care of, but they were doing some pretty bumpy work with ships and waves and you know what they were doing. And in fact, the guy Bill Mullis that owns this boat right beside me, the Linda Carroll, that Morris Snow used to have for the longest kind of time, and then went to Connecticut and came back here and was rebuilt by David Rollins and all. pretty much from the waterline up.
Right.
You know, Sean was running out of stuff to do, but what ended up happening, the boat was sold to Matthews, a guy with Any Ocean Unlimited Tonnage named Rodney Ugate had her, and he put a little dredge rig on her, was doing conchs and a bunch of stuff and coming to events and all. And then she went to Ellery Kellum, which is over in Weems, and she was then under a buy boat configuration and everything, but they were actually dredging the boat.
Right.
So she did a little bit of conch dredging with Ugate, then she did a little bit of oyster dredging and crab dredging and all around, and then she went to Reedville, and there was a guy named Jim Miller in Reedville who was just a master boatman and craftsman and mechanic, and he did a lot of work at Butler's Marine Railway up at Reedville, which is a very, very old boatyard right across from the Reedville Fisherman's Museum. And he kept her for a while, sold her to a man, Callio, and that's where I bought her. I was a salesman for a company called Urbana Auto and Marine in my early years until I bought the business. And so I called on the Butlers for years and years and years, and so I naturally took it to George. So about, I guess, 2010, maybe we did a pretty major rebuild. And then I used it just like I've used it now for a long time. Well, I ended up with triple bypass, and I broke my back in two in 2019, and so I sort of became inactive for a little while, and then I just didn't take care of the boat as well as I should. So this year I bring it to David Rollins, and David is overhauled or put some planks in her ways.
See, we even have Langley giving us a flyby today. Now, I was telling them that we have Langley giving us a flyby today, flyover.
Yeah, it'll be gone in a minute.
Yeah. I don't complain about the jets because they're an eye in the sky.
Oh, no,
you know what?
Man.
That's right.
Is a must.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
what it is.
I think you're good now if you want to continue.
Okay. Well, I don't really know where to go, but
just that you had her here and got the work done on her, and she looks beautiful. Let me do a scan of her. I mean, y'all can see her. I'm up on deck now, and you know, we've got this hatch. They added on this whole front addition here, which is really nice. Got the 671 down there, and
that's an interesting motor. That motor is a 1938 Gray Marine, so she's been around a long time. Naturally aspirated, 2-valve head. It's just very, very basic. The government used them in landing crafts and everything.
I believe it still has the old bypass oil filter system with the one little tube. And that's what mine had that I took out.
It's just a cool engine. And it runs very, very well. So, I mean, I like it.
Right.
You know, she's pretty much a miser as far as fuel is concerned and all, and she doesn't go real fast. But,
right.
You know, these guys you're hearing burning 40 gallons an hour in a glass boat that flies. So this isn't it. You know?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basic. I mean, it's meant to take you out there and work, come bring you up.
My dad's dead rise, you know, we always had gas engines when I started out with him, but then we put a 453 in her.
Right.
And we could leave out of Back Creek and Seaford and fish 250 crab pots all the way around the Back River and back on 5.5 gallons of fuel a day.
It's almost like it was making fuel.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
Yeah, they were misers too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
so,
they were.
But
anyway, she's been good to me. I've made a lot of friends with this boat. A lot of people have been pretty highly entertained with what they see, and we're imparting a certain amount of knowledge to these people that come up and ask you, well, what is a buy boat?
Yeah.
You know, and it was just such a multifaceted type situation. I mean, these boats did everything.
Yeah.
I mean, the rivers of Virginia were highways.
Right.
And with the steamboats out of Baltimore, I mean, you had access to cities, but you didn't have to stay there. You go up and back. And these boats, I mean, they were everywhere. I mean, there were probably thousands of them. And they did every task that you could imagine, from hauling church groups to students from Tangier that went to the school in Crisfield or Nancock, and just all around. I mean, it benefited a time in this country when boats were really king and necessary as a daily tool.
Absolutely.
And we're not really there. I mean, this morning some ladies came from Yorktown on a jet ski.
Yeah.
You know, they did it in record time, and it'd take me a long time, but I get there too.
Right.
But these boats, I mean, they service families. I mean, like the F.D. Crockett down here, which was built in Dare.
Yeah.
And finished by K.T. Smith.
It was started in Seaford and then
Right.
took across the creek to Dare. Yep.
Exactly right. But they've had multiple owners through the years.
Yeah.
I mean, the best thing ever happened to it was John England,
Right.
you know, and he had the knowledge and he had the time and the dedication and frame of mind to fix that boat, and they fixed it.
Oh,
She is just
I told him yesterday that I'm quite sure Pretty Green would be pretty happy with
Freddie would
the
be
condition he
very,
has her
very
in.
happy.
'Cause
They had a dedication.
Pretty kept her spotless,
Oh man.
inside and out.
Oh yeah, and that's what you got to really do.
Yeah.
And the boats that were taken care of are the ones that you still see around today.
Right.
You know.
And see, that's one thing I wanted to tell you, because I know you've been big in the Buy Boat, Chesapeake
All
Bay
the time.
Buy Boat Association, and
Right.
you know, I just want to tell you that we appreciate that so much,
Thank
because you all are the ones that are spending a lot of time and money keeping these boats up, keeping them alive, keeping them around, you know, and I mean, that's important. And we appreciate everything y'all have done
We
and
appreciate
continue
you
to do.
saying that. This boat next to me, which is the Peggy, built down in Matthews, lots of families, captained by Captain Kerr Hall now. It was the lifeblood. I mean, these boats, from a condition standpoint, can go up and down, and they did major work. But they saved a teaching tool to inform people of what it really used to be like.
Right.
And some of the stories you can hear from these people, you're not going to hear from anybody else.
Nope.
Because basically, when they left shore, there weren't eyes out there following them. There weren't cameras. You know, nothing. Those guys did their thing and then came back late in the day.
Right.
And so this is an opportunity for people to find out. Of course, we started this thing in 2004 in Rock Hall, Maryland. And the group from down here was led by David Rollins with the East Hampton. This boat, the Peggy, went. Paul Vroman was running the Ellen Marie, which was a Matthews boat.
Right.
And we went to Solomon's, picked up the William Tennyson, which was an old log boat that was taking passengers for the museum at Solomon's.
Right.
And went to Rock Hall, and that's when we actually sat down and formed this association.
Yeah.
You know, there are no dues, there are no rules. It's just a bunch of like-minded people that wanted to get together and were lucky enough to get a museum, because museums have a mission to keep these things up and teach, which is all well and good, because people today, they have no idea
Right.
what harvesting oysters was all about.
Right.
What crabbing is all about. And it's hard work, but they love it when they go to a restaurant.
Absolutely.
You know? It's
And
all good.
that's why I started Workboat Life, because you know, the wooden dead rise, they are expensive to maintain,
Oh, my Lord.
labor intensive, you know, I mean, and they are starting to fade away, 'cause I mean,
Oh, yeah.
just everybody can't afford to do
yeah.
it. So I wanted to start this and capture this history while it's here, you know.
That's good, because that's the way it should be.
And a lot of times, as people pass on, the younger generations don't care much, and next thing you know, all the pictures and things have been thrown away, and you know, and it's just gone. So I've been trying to do all I can to capture it.
Well, I want to just put in a little plug for Larry Tuning too.
Absolutely, sure.
Larry went on the Peggy to our 2004 meeting in Rock Hall.
Okay.
And then he was in the process of getting that Buy Boat book together.
Right.
Buy Boats of the Chesapeake.
Which is a great book.
It is the only true reference book.
Right.
And it's based on personal histories.
Yeah.
A roster.
Right.
That gives you information about the boat by number and tonnage and name.
Right.
And all this stuff. And it has just become the source. And Larry was here yesterday,
right,
you know, selling these books and telling you about this boat, but it is just such a narrow issue. But I mean, the more you find out about it, the more intrigued you get.
Oh yeah.
With the way this thing wrote down. And if you can imagine that 150 buy boats being in the James River,
right,
think about how many boats like your Norris 36 over here were down there scraping these oysters up with tongs, or ever how they did it then.
Deep Creek, you could walk across the creek from boat to boat, rafted up all the way across the creek. So yeah,
it was big. It was big. But,
so
you know, sometimes a resource can be gone you don't realize.
Oh yeah.
You know. And, you know, oysters are one thing that you don't do a lot of import because they're so perishable, and it has to be, you know, local, and a distribution system that covers food service institutions and restaurants and all this stuff.
Right.
You know, where would Virginia be without oysters, and where would oysters be if it were not for these boats?
Absolutely. You know? And yesterday was National Oyster Day.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
really?
You didn't know that?
Oh my Lord! What the hell did I eat for something?
Hey, look.
I don't remember. There was a piece of fish, so I mean, it was close.
But look, you got National Oyster Day. You got the most fertile oyster rock here, and Virginia is for lovers. So that's a perfect fit, isn't it?
Right. Well, see, many years ago, the town of Urbana, where I live, started the Oyster Festival. And
all right.
The Oyster Festival is very famous.
Yeah.
We have the Virginia Oyster Shucking Contest, and are known to be the only real oyster festival that represents the state of Virginia.
Right.
And we have sent representatives to Galway, Ireland, you know, up north on Long Island Sound, and just everywhere for these contests and all, and that is good advertisement to tell you about the state of Virginia.
Absolutely.
Yes, it is.
Well,
I do, sir.
You've got people trying to see you, and I ain't trying to hog up all your time,
you're
but I've enjoyed talking with you. I know we've had a lot of people here watching as we were, you know, having the discussion, and so I just appreciate you doing it and sitting down with me. And
well, as a group now, and as an individual, we appreciate what you do for keeping this in front of the public, keeping it on social media, and all that you do to help promote us to be a part of history. And that's basically what it is.
Well, it comes from my heart. You know, I love doing it, and you know, work boat life is not a money maker. People think I do it to try to make money. It's not. That's not even that. You know, but it's a passion of mine, and I'm gonna do what I can to support it. You know, so
it's good stuff, good people.
Yeah,
and that's important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's these boats bringing some good people together.
Oh yeah, and so many people come down. I mean, we were just bombarded yesterday with people, and all of them knew a little bit, and when they left, they knew a little bit more.
Right.
And it was just, it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Way to say it.
And look, like you said, ladies came here earlier on jet skis.
Oh, yeah.
They're coming by boat. They were riding by. Some of them even had some of their crab pots on the boat with them when they were riding by looking.
Yeah.
They're coming by cars. this morning I got a picture sent to me at 8 o'clock of a guy who came over here on a paddle board from Chisman's Creek and Seaford. And look, we don't care if you come in a helicopter, just come see us, you know.
Well, let me just say this to you too. This is such an ideal spot because David has done a lot of work here.
Right.
And the surf rider people have been just absolutely wonderful. The
Right.
marina people,
Right.
managed by Kim.
Right.
I mean, it's just all good. They are accommodating. They look after us, and we feel like we're good for business because a lot of these people come see us are going to get a delicious meal and surf rider. It's
Absolutely.
all related.
Yeah.
It's all good.
And some of them's gonna look around and say, you know what, these are nice slips. I'm gonna get me a slip in here.
Yeah.
So you're right. But there again, I see you got people waiting for you, so I need to cut this off. But yeah, I really appreciate it. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and
I'm glad you got a chance. And
yeah.
I'm glad to talk to you as I learn more.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Thank you, friend.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, bye.
All right, everybody, we enjoy you being with us today, and I hope you've been watching and enjoying, and we've had quite a few on here watching live, and so we're just going to say thank you.